All right. So I'm live. I was gonna do a talk with somebody, but then an emergency came up, so I wasn't able to do that talk with them. And I've been wanting to do a reaction video to a specific abortion video I saw on YouTube. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I just need to share this. Share screen. Okay, there we go. I haven't done a reaction video in a while, so I want to make sure. I wonder if I can make this bigger. How's that? There we go. That's better. And then I wonder if it affects it if I move this. Don't affect it. Don't affect it. Okay, cool. Okay, so I've actually seen this. I watched this this abortion video. I don't know, maybe 3 months ago. And you know, every once in a while, I just watch as many debates or conversations as I can on abortion. I'm currently writing a book on the topic of abortion, and when I saw this, I just thought it was one of the wildest things ever. These people that seem well. Anyways, let's just. I think it's worth doing a reaction to. So I just want to point out that I had seen it because some people view reaction videos as being a first time thing. That's just not something I'm into. I get it, but yeah. Anyways, here we go.
We're gonna talk to Gohan. Hi, Gohan. Please let me know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. We are you're on the Atheist Experience. What would you like to talk about today?
Yes, ma'am. Gohan's correct.
Okay.
Awesome. You're like the Dragon Ball Z character, right?
You got it. Yes, sir.
Radical.
Cool.
I've never watched the show, but I know the name. I'm excited.
Well, let me just do a little bit of baseless advertising. There's a movie coming out for Dragon Ball Z in a couple months.
What?
So if you're interested, go watch it.
Cool.
Dude, I'm always down for new things. That sounds cool. I don't know. It's got such a massive fan base. It must be good, right?
My kid loves it.
Oh, yeah?
I might be a little biased, but yes, it's good.
Right on. I'm sorry to ramble about your name. What are you calling about, man?
I was going to talk about abortion.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. We'll talk about.
I was just going to say one argument I've heard a lot recently, ever since the leak came out, was comparing abortion to organ donation. I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that, and I do have a rebuttal, but I want to know if you guys kind of agree that that is comparable.
In a way, I've used that line of reasoning to say. In fact, Shannon and I were talking about this just before the show. As that if if I want to donate my organs here in America, like if I want to be an organ donor, I have to sign off on that before I die, right? So if I die and you need my heart to live, and I didn't sign off on that before I died, now we're both dying, right? That's just how it is. So if we're gonna say that someone with the uterus can't decide who gets to use that uterus to survive, then we're saying that if you have a uterus, you have less rights than a literal corpse. And that's kind of a weird argument to make, to say that you gain more civil rights after death,
Well, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get into this, but I'll just have my first reaction to this. I think most people that have the thoughts they have on abortion would view it as an innocent human being killed. There's probably various other ways to look at it, but a innocent human being killed. So they're not. It's has nothing at all to do with if you have a uterus, you have no rights, or you can't choose to do this. Like if let's say at any stage, a human inside of somebody that's not born yet. You could just press a button and then they're magically outside of that person and not killed. Like, let's say you could magically make them outside of that person, and then in a lab, they're just incubated in a lab. Then I don't think anybody has any thoughts on that. Again, unless there's some harm being caused or whatever, and then that would be its own separate thing. But so a corpse having rights because you can say what you think should happen to your corpse after death is not. It's not like in the sense that if you're allowed to kill, then you're given extra rights, and therefore. Yeah, I'm trying to work around a way to even make this comparable, and I can't really think of one. But yeah, anyways, I guess we'll see how they handle this.
No, it's like that's how I would present it. I don't know if that's what you were arguing or what you were bringing up or not.
That is what I was bringing up, and I do have a rebuttal for it.
Bring it on.
And Ms. Shannon, is that kind of your stance as well?
Yeah, I'm on record basically anywhere anybody can find me saying, not specifically a Forrest argument, but a similar version. And it has to do with the fetuses having like a special set of rights. Basically, my position is that in no other circumstance does anybody have a right to any component of somebody's body to sustain their own life. Like, for example, if I was in a room with someone, we had the same blood type, and I stabbed that person, for example, they were bleeding to death, and I was the only person in the room, and I was responsible for that. I stabbed them. I was responsible for the harm that just took place for this person and the reason that they are dying. Nobody anywhere has the right to force me to give that person a blood transfusion. They will just die. You cannot violate my personal autonomy in any system that I'm aware of. By forcing me to give that person a blood transfusion, I would have to do it of my own volition. So why does somebody who's actually murdering somebody else have more rights to bodily autonomy than any woman on earth?
Okay, I guess the murdering would be I think she's talking about the embryo or the fetus, murdering the pregnant woman. Man, that seems very confusing. I'm not sure exactly what she's saying there. But yeah, with the stabbing one, it's interesting because I think the law currently would be what she said. If you stab somebody and then you have the only blood to give them, and there's doctors there and they could give them the blood, and you say, nope, I don't want to, and they just have to let the person die out. I think that's currently how it's set up, and I'm not against that. I'm also not against there being something that would force that. It's kind of complicated. I think there is a line to be drawn at forcing somebody to have blood removed from their body, or in any form of action that would be like doing something physical to them, like removing something from them, like if a kid needs a kidney and a parent could give them the kidney, but the parent decides not to, I don't think a parent should be forced to. But in a case where it is blood, I'm kind of on the fence. Like if we had something, but here's why it's probably not worth being on the fence, because you have to have like court processes to prove guilt, and so. I guess I'm only on the fence in a case where somehow you're like, this happens in a hospital, so there's the ability to give the blood before the person dies out, and the person that did it is admitting to doing it while it's on film, while like 10 doctors witnessed it or something. Because somebody can say they did a thing, but they're not really with it, and then making them give blood is kind of tricky. And then some people can say they witnessed the thing just because they knew the person had the same blood type. So the main reason this is a problem is the court process. If the only way to save that person in the world, the only way to save that person was to give the blood of the person that stabbed them, and you could like freeze that person, somehow like cryogenically freeze them, and then go through the court process and find out for sure if the person did the stabbing, and then unfreeze them, and then still that only option is the blood. I'm still mildly on the fence, but I would say that maybe they should be forced to give the blood. But that being said, I don't need that to feel how I feel with abortion. I don't view those as similar, because again, I think this is something that people miss, which is why I think abortion needs to be talked about more. I don't think anybody thinks that exactly the pregnant person needs to give part of their body. The thing is that they can't do is they cannot kill. And I think it's just that simple. I mean, it's not exactly that simple because I think there's a little more to it. If you remove the fetus, if you could remove the fetus but couldn't keep it alive, then the question would be like, is that kill or neglect? And I would think it's a mixture of two things. You can't kill something or neglect it to death. And so that makes it complicated. It makes the only option left is letting it use your body, but it doesn't mean that that's what's being allowed. So yeah.
Somebody who just had sex, and that's the thing is that like if you're pro forced birth, you're saying you have more rights before you're born and more rights after you die, and in that middle ground where you're actually alive and kicking, you're fucked. Like it's very strange.
There's more counter arguments to abortion being legal as well, or there's more arguments, I should say, but that's one that I feel is pretty strong in my opinion.
Yeah.
I said that's a pretty fair question. It sounds very similar to the violinist. I have a rebuttal I heard from pro-life apologist Trent Horn.
I've spoken to Trent about abortion.
Sorry?
I've actually spoken to Trent directly about abortion. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Cool. It's called the reverse violinist. I've called the atheist experience and discussed the reverse violinist before. I want to talk about the violinist and organ donation. So both of you guys are kind of agreeing that organ donation is kind of analogous to forced pregnancy. So my rebuttal to that is if I fail to give an organ to somebody who needs it, or if I fail to keep the violinist alive and I walk away, what does that person die of? If the person needs a kidney, if I fail to give them my kidney, what do they die of?
They die of kidney failure, but you didn't kill them.
Okay. Right. Agreed. If somebody is pregnant and they don't want to be and they have an abortion, what does the fetus die of?
Of not being sustained, of whatever, but the mother didn't kill them.
No.
Or the mother to be, I should say.
Doctor does. They always kill the fetus before they take it out. If they take the fetus out, it's technically a live birth, and then it's under everybody's definition, that's inarguably a human person. So then the doctor is responsible for that life. So they always kill the fetus before they take it out. So
I'm not an abortion doctor, so I have no idea.
I have no idea if that's accurate.
You could be telling the truth, or you could be not telling the truth. But I still don't think that. I don't think that that's a rebuttal. Like in that instance, if you're saying, let's all accept that as true for the sake of argument right now. I'll just for the sake of argument. If you're saying that in this case, a doctor is dismembering or killing the fetus in order to take it out, that still would not be the person with the uterus causing that, right?
No.
So in this instance,
Well, yeah, it'd be like the person with the uterus, like hiring a hitman. Like, so if I wanted my neighbor killed and I hire somebody to kill them, then I think it's kind of complicated because I'm about as pro free speech as humanly possible. But there will be some cases where it's tricky, and I think something like hiring somebody to kill somebody is a case where there's a problem. I think the person that did the killing, I think it's a bit worse. I think that person should at very least get the same trouble, but maybe more trouble. But yeah, I think in a desirable society, we have to make it illegal to hire somebody to kill somebody. So if somebody has a baby inside of them and they want, or not baby, I hate using that. If somebody has a living fetus inside of them and they want to have it killed, then they have somebody kill it if they can't do it themselves. If they could somehow do it themselves safely or whatever and then did it, then we would be looking at them as the one that killed it. If they have a doctor do it, then the doctor did it. If they have a talking giraffe do it, then the talking giraffe did it. If there is an act of killing, then it's the one who is doing that act and then the one who paid to or asked for that act to be done.
Your problem would be with the method in which it is done, as opposed to
Not
the problem
necessarily the
being with the
method.
fact that it is done.
Not necessarily the method. To me, it doesn't matter how you kill the fetus. It's the fact that you are directly and purposefully killing the fetus. If I fail
Well, what do
to
you think
keep
of
my
my
organ,
scenario
I'm not
where I
directly-
stabbed you? So, like, let's look like
Yeah,
this is actually analogous to my initial point that I made. But I stab you. You
Right.
and I are in a room. I stab you. You are bleeding to death. You are dying because I stabbed you. You are dying of a stabbing. The only way to save your life is for me to give you my blood. Do I have to give you my blood?
What are you? What am I dying from? Am I dying from you?
This a stab
stabbing me?
wound.
From blood loss. Yeah.
From blood loss, yeah, a stab wound. So you're dying from blood loss.
Yeah.
And if I
from-
give you a
from dying
transfusion,
from
you'll survive.
stab- I'm not dying from a failure of organ donation or blood transfusion. I'm dying from the stabbing.
Right. So I could
You see the
save you
difference?
in this scenario, right? By giving you my blood.
Right.
Right.
So
Do I have to?
it's Not abortion is not about forced saving. It's about against killing. So
No, so you're
abortion always-
not answering my question though. Like, so you still haven't given me an answer to my
Oh, okay,
question.
so- So then let me answer it. No, you do not
Yeah.
have to,
Why? Why don't I have to?
because you're not. Because what you did to me, the thing that's killing me is the stabbing. You're not
Mhm.
bound to save my life. You are bound to not kill me.
So I did kill you in that scenario though, right? I stabbed
Right.
you.
That's
So
why you would get in trouble. You wouldn't get in trouble because you did.
Yeah, this guy makes such a good point. He just might not be explaining himself as well as he could be. But I do that all the time. But yeah, so like the point he's making here is that she couldn't take him to a doctor and tell the doctor to stab him correctly. If she stabs him, he's still alive. Should she be forced to keep him alive? Maybe not. So if she hires somebody to stab him and the person's still alive, you might not be forced to keep them alive. But the bad act is the killing attempt, and it's just not a successful one. And so I guess it would be analogous to the idea of a botched abortion, where before you remove the fetus, you stab it, and then you remove it and you go, oh, dang, we didn't fully kill it, but nobody's forced to keep it alive, so we just let it die out here over the next couple of minutes or something like that.
Didn't save my life. You would get in trouble because you stabbed me.
yep.
So
that's
I think I get where you're coming from here, though.
Yeah, I
I
don't-
think I'm
explain
seeing
it
the
to me.
distinction.
Okay.
It sounds like what you're saying is that, you know, it's you're absolving the uterus haver, the mother to be, the whatever. You know, you're absolving this person because all they're doing is separating their organs from this fetus. But you're saying that the doctor that is performing this procedure is directly and actively ending a life, whereas the other person is just disconnecting from the life. This doctor is actually ending the life, and so they are performing an act of murder. Is that more what you're saying?
Pretty close. I am going to change it a little bit. I'm going to say the doctor would kind of be viewed as a hitman. So if they hired a hitman, they would be culpable as well.
Okay, so I see. I get where you're going. That's a funny analogy. So the
It's
problem
not a funny analogy. It's a perfect analogy.
that I
Well, I
have
mean,
with
it might be
that
funny and
is that
perfect.
there is a distinction between ending a pregnancy and ending a life. And so you said earlier on that doctors kill the fetus before they extract it. Again, I don't think that's accurate. But even if it is, like, if it isn't, if it's just ending the pregnancy, then that's moot. But if that is the case,
Well, I mean, like,
then we can start having the discussion about personhood, because what you said a minute ago also is that everybody can agree that this is a human person, and there are a lot of people that wouldn't. And if your argument is that this is a cluster of cells with unique human DNA, okay, I brush out a lot of those every time I brush my teeth in the morning. And so, like, where do we
Yeah,
draw
but
the
those
line
aren't
on that,
organisms.
and how do we define life?
can I butt in really quick?
By all means, yeah.
If you aren't killing human organisms, you're killing human cell. Sometimes the cell can be an organism. Sometimes it's just tissue. But
Right,
a fetus is a human organism. You are a human organism. The cells in your mouth are not human organisms.
So you're saying there's a certain point where you are killing the entire thing rather than just a chunk of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you kill the entire thing, that would be killing a human organism. And I,
Yeah, like I have skin cells, I have blood cells, I have all these different things that they are part of the human species. Currently, they're alive. My blood cells are alive, my skin cells are alive, but they are not a human. They are not a living human. And again, these are just words, semantics. It doesn't matter, but how we use the words, we should all just get in line with using the words the same way and do whatever is easiest. And so yeah, as soon as you have an individual human that is growing, that is at any stage of what that human will be. Like so, the sperm that was part of what became me, and the egg that was part of what became me, separate from when they were separate. That was not a stage of me in any form. Yeah, and so as soon as the eggs fertilize, not that I'm personally wanting to afford any value or rights to a fertilized egg or anything, but as soon as the eggs fertilize, then that was my first point of being a human, and then since that was never stopped, then I kept going stage, and then here I am. So yeah, the idea that people will compare things like blood cells or skin cells to a human. We just need to get on the same page because, like for me, my current personal cutoff, what I think, where I value humans, would be when a human reaches sentience, which is possibly 12 weeks. It might be later. Who knows? We'll follow the science on that. But that's when I personally value it. So, and I have no problem saying that a fertilized egg is a living human that I think should be able to be killed. It's alive, and you can kill it. And I don't think that a human deserves rights until the arbitrary point that we assume is when it has reached sentience. And so that is a certain point after how we assume pregnancy begins, like where we go based on the amount of weeks separate from the last period and so on, and then we say this many weeks from that point is a likelihood for sentience, or a likelihood for a precautionary principle for sentience, or something like that. And then that's where my cutoff is. Some other people, their cutoffs are wherever they are. And so I think we should normalize the idea. Like I feel fine saying that an 8-week-old fetus is a living human that should legally be able to be killed. We should normalize this.
I've called with this statement before. I don't think you should be able to kill a human organism unless there's high risk of severe harm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have another question, because now I'm confused about what your view is on abortion just in general.
Go for it.
So
Okay.
if that's the argument that you were making, then you don't think that it's wrong for a woman anyone with a uterus who is pregnant to remove the fetus or the embryo or the zygote or the blastocyst or whatever from their uterus. Like
Yeah,
that act is not incorrect. The woman is allowed to make that choice. You would say that,
Yeah,
right?
as long as the human organism doesn't die, then yes. Like if there's like an advancement in science where we can make some type of embryo or outside uterus in the future,
Right.
yes, by all means, if you don't want to be pregnant, take that human out and put in something that can sustain it. But just don't kill it.
But so we don't currently have. So I'm understanding what you're saying. So you're saying that if there was some sort of technology where that could function like a uterus, and we could somehow extract like whatever state this pregnancy is in out of the uterus and place it in that machine to sustain its life until it's viable on its own, then it would be acceptable to make this decision. But since we don't have that technology available, it's currently not acceptable for a woman to make that decision.
Okay, I'm going to respond to her, and then there's a there's a comment in the chat that I want to respond to in a second. But first, I want to comment the analogy I like to use for what's being talked about right here. And okay, so this is a very wild hypothetical. I know some people don't like hypotheticals, but that's silly of them, so they should get over it. Okay, so imagine that, let's say there's two people. So these two people, we got this man and this woman. Okay, so let's say that this man could shrink this woman down. And then let's say this man also had like an open compartment in his stomach or chest or something where it just opens up like a cupboard. It seals perfectly and it can just open up really easily. He shrunk her down. He put her inside of him. He didn't ask her. He just put her inside of him. And then he puts on a little space helmet thing, and somehow or another he goes up into space. Okay, so she's inside of him. She was forced inside of him. Okay. We can probably agree that he shouldn't be able to kill her just because she's inside of him. She put him inside, or he put her inside of him. Okay, so this is analogous to pregnancy outside of a sexual assault pregnancy, and anybody having sex, knowing the possible outcome, they essentially put that human inside of them. Now, that doesn't give value to a human at any certain point. So if you don't think a human deserves value till a certain point, then you can still say it doesn't matter that fertilized egg or blastocyst or zygote, that you could say there's no value, so it should be able to be killed. But either way, the pregnant person put that in them, just like in my scenario here. Okay, so they're out in space, and he has a space helmet on. She's inside. He could say, I want to remove her from my body. I don't want to kill her, but I want to remove her from my body. But he took her out to space. She didn't agree to be where she's at. If he opens that door, she's going to not be able to breathe out in space. And he will, because he has a helmet on. Should he be able to open it? And I think the answer is clearly no. He should only be able to open it and let her out when the environment will be acceptable. And so I think potentially that is a solid argument. Once the value is given to the unborn, then the argument would be at that valued stage of that person that was put in there by the pregnant person, that not only should you not be able to kill it, but you should not be able to remove it if it can't survive in that environment. So anyways, there's that. And then as far as responding to the comments, Jeremy, hello. I agree with everything you've said so far. Theology and philosophy discussions and debates, commented on something I said in here, saying, when he says the arbitrary point we assume, that seems to be problematic. How is arbitrariness not a logical fallacy? And is we not an appeal to popularity or alleged authority? So when I say we, that would just be what's decided by a society, there'd be an authority of sorts, government talking to experts, and it's just what's decided. The reason it must be arbitrary is the same reason that adulthood must be arbitrary. So experts will give their arguments for when puberty essentially ends and we can trust that somebody's mature enough to make decisions. And so some people that are 30 or 40 aren't mature enough to make decisions. Some people that are 14 or 15 are mature enough to make decisions. But on average, we get this feel for the time that you should be considered an adult making your own decisions. Happens to be 18 in a lot of places. And in some places it's lower. But I've never heard a good argument for viewing it different for different people. I don't think it would be fair. There'd be room for people to discriminate in various different ways that shouldn't be discriminated. And so having this arbitrary line based on what we can perceive of when somebody is likely at a stage of being an adult makes sense. So we call that 18. If we called it 17, I think that'd be fine. If we call it 19, I think it'd be fine. The fact that we call it 18 doesn't mean that the day before your 18th birthday means that you're most likely to be dumber than your average 18-year-old. And same thing where the day after your 18th birthday, it doesn't change. But you still have to have that point. So I'd say the same thing here. If no matter what we're valuing, if we're valuing sentience, if we're valuing, you know, brain activity, if we're valuing consciousness, all these different things, we, however we can detect those things happening, however we can like look inside, see a fetus as it's developing, or see stillborn fetuses and do autopsies and see like various different things of brain development and all these different things, then we can say like, so on average, this many weeks in, this is what's happening. There will be some cases where it's not happening. There'll be other cases where it's even more developed, but you kind of have to go on average and have this arbitrary line. Now, and I guess in that sense, it's almost not arbitrary, but as far as precautionary principles go, or even making laws, you could go by, instead of the average, you could go by the youngest. For example, viability is usually viewed as like around 24 weeks. Sometimes it's like considered 23 to 24 weeks, but the youngest fetus that was born and lived and was successfully alive later was like 21 weeks. And so instead of having it be your average, it could be 21 weeks. You just go with the earliest case of it happening. Either way is fine. But I think yeah, let me know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Let's see. Subjective doesn't mean. Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. Hey, Lewis. What Carson values is based on a subjective philosophy about value itself. Well, yeah. There's a sentence. Yeah, schools is less arbitrary. Okay.
Yes. And by the way, they do have that technology in Dragon Ball Z. I'm just going to state that.
Okay. All right.
Hell
fair
yeah.
enough.
All right, so like my biggest issue with what you're saying here, and I'm going to ask a couple of questions because I want to make sure that this is what you're saying, is what it sounds to me is that the premises that you're laying out do make sense, but where you're going with it is a completely arbitrary line. And I want to draw attention to that more than anything. You said a second ago that you think
what's
that
the arbitrary line?
Well, what I mean is that you said a second ago that. Sorry.
I was going to ask, what is the arbitrary line?
Oh, I think Forrest is getting there.
Oh yeah, I'm getting there. I promise. Yeah. So you said a second ago that you don't think that abortion should be allowed, except in cases where this pregnancy is life-threatening to the mother, right? Let's say for an ectopic pregnancy, for example. Did I hear you right?
Not only life-threatening, but high risk of severe harm. So whatever severe harm would allow you to kill a 5-year-old. Maybe it's they're going to cut off one of your limbs. I think you can shoot that 5-year-old.
Okay.
Like that's not.
What about cases of rape or incest?
No, I don't think it should be allowed then.
Okay. So, and I'm just this purely rhetorical, just to see where your lines are. What you're saying is that there is a certain point where one person's life is worth more than another person's life.
No.
Why not? Why is that not what you're saying? You just said that if someone's going to cut off your leg, you can kill a 5-year-old to stop it.
Yes. So if the severe harm reaches that kind of level, it's like you're going to lose a leg from the pregnancy. I feel like you should be able to kill that human, whether it's a 5-year-old or a fetus.
So we're saying a fetus is a complete person with complete rights. So I'm going to abandon the word fetus and I'm just going to say another person, just to be very clear that that's what we're talking about. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool. So you are saying that if somebody the cost of a human life, killing another person, and the cost of this leg right here are the same. I can cut this leg off or I can kill a person. If I have the choice, either one is valid.
Are you talking about like an innocent person, or is it killing this person
this
They-
came along
they-
from a
even though
fetus,
they're
so I'm
not
going to assume that the fetus has committed no crimes. So, yes, I can kill an innocent person or I can cut off my leg. And if I decide to keep my leg and murder that guy, that's totally justifiable.
Oh no, I was muted. I am so glad somebody mentioned that. Oh my gosh. Um, yeah. Okay. So really quick, I was just pointing out that somebody in the comments was saying that essentially I was saying value is subjective, and I was saying yes, all values are subjective, and that's how all laws work. It doesn't matter what the law is. For the most part, all laws work based on value, which is subjective. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Maybe innocent wasn't the right word. I should have used like a non-threat.
Sure, yeah, whatever. This dude is just minding those business. He's shopping at Walmart. He's picking up some clams, and I can either just gun him down in cold blood, or I can lose a leg. And I'm deciding I'm keeping the leg. This bro isn't going home. That's totally fine because otherwise I might have lost a leg. Is that what you're arguing?
No, sir.
Okay, what's the difference between that and what you just said a minute ago?
Because a minute ago, what I was saying was there is a direct action that they are taking, either purposely or not, that is going to make you lose your leg.
But you said that it's okay if you terminate a pregnancy if there's severe health complications. And one of the examples you gave, which I realized was fatuous, is that you were saying if, for example, they were to lose a leg, then it would be okay to terminate the pregnancy. So I'm saying, by what you just said, a human life is worth the same as a human leg. And so right here, I've got 2 lives ready to go. If I want to kill 2 people, but I can keep jogging in the morning, that's okay. okay, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No. So again, it's not the fact that it's a life versus a leg. It's the fact that that life is threatening your leg.
Okay.
Whether they're
So
doing
if
it.
How on earth do I keep getting muted? This is so weird. Okay, I'm not going to click the mute button again, but I keep getting muted. It's really weird. I was just saying that if you can't just cut off your leg and then go kill a person. It's if there's a threat happening. If somebody is attacking you and they're cutting off your leg, like they're going to cut off your leg, you can kill them in self-defense. But if somebody drugs you and cuts off your leg, heals you up, and then when you wake up, you're in public, there's an endless amount of people around, and there's no harm any further, and the person that cut off your leg is standing right there and you have a gun, you can't kill them. You can only stop them in self-defense. So I don't know what's happening here. Also, sorry that I keep getting muted, dudes.
someone is trying, so if someone is coming at me trying to chop my leg off and I murder them, that's cool.
So
I wouldn't call that murder. I would call that rightful killing.
Right, but
I
you
just
see how
want
silly
clarity.
this argument is getting, though. That's the whole point of what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
this
that's
is,
why I want clarity for just 1 second. So, because
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, everybody watching, did I miss something? I've seen this twice now. These guys seem smart outside of this conversation, but are they right about something here? I just don't get it.
I'm following what Forrest is saying, because in this scenario, like, you couldn't really say that a fetus or an embryo has any sort of intent to cause the pregnant person harm, right? Like,
that's precise where I was going. I'm so glad you
there's
got there.
like, a fetus isn't sitting in there going, I am going to fuck my mom's gallbladder so hard that she has to have it taken out.
Yeah, intent doesn't exactly matter. If somebody's like sleepwalking and they're gonna go like stab somebody or something, when they're in the middle of doing it, you can stop them. If I'm trying to think of any other examples, like somebody could just put a blindfold on and walk around with a gun and just randomly point a gun, shoot it, walk 10 feet, point, shoot it, but they're not intending to do anything. They're just being weird for some reason. Once they point their gun at a person, or even well before then, because of how reckless they're being, you could shoot them to stop the thing they're doing. The intent doesn't matter. It's what's about to take place that matters.
Because I did that to my mom. She had to have it removed shortly after because I kicked the shit out of it until it was dead. It was gone, right? So, but I didn't actively make that decision. So that distinction that you're drawing there, in that scenario, if that's justification that will allow me to end a pregnancy, and because you're identifying a fetus as a fully autonomous person, then Forrest's analogy stands, because you're saying if I can kill an innocent person in your paradigm, if there's any threat of harm to me, and it will prevent that harm from taking place. That is what you are.
Yeah, wait, yes, that's not what he was saying. That's not what the Forrest guy was saying. But yeah, if the harm, not any harm, but like if a toddler's running up to slap you or something, that's not a reason to kill somebody. But if there's, I think it's safe to say if a life is in danger, like for example with the leg thing, like I don't know if I would even say it would be fair to kill somebody that's about to take your leg off. Probably it is, but let's say it isn't. The reason you'd be able to do it is because you don't know what their final outcome is going to be. If they're coming at you with a knife to cut your leg off, you're not able to kill them because your leg's worth that value. You're able to kill them in self-defense because they might be coming at you to kill you. So, yeah.
Actually saying when you make that argument.
Can
Am I getting what you're saying there, Forrest? Am I putting the pieces together?
No, you are, and that's exactly like that. I'm so glad you got to intent, because that's where I wanted to go with it next. It's just
I understand.
when do we say that? And because this is what I meant when you said this an arbitrary line. That's the arbitrary line I'm talking about. Is that you are picking a random point where you're like, okay, now it's okay. Yeah, by all means, respond.
Can I
Please.
get a quick second? Sorry. So for me, let me go back. It doesn't matter if it's purposeful or not. Let's say the 5-year-old is coming at you to take off your leg, or let's say you're at a birthday party, the 5-year-old grabs a sword and thinks it's fun and is just swinging around. I think you have a right either way, whether they're trying to take off your leg or not. to shoot them. I think the same goes with the fetus if they're trying to kick.
Wait,
Or,
why is he laughing and saying it happens? Why is she doing this? What he's saying is perfect. It's a perfect example.
take off your leg somehow, then.
Okay, so
But they're not
Okay, well,
trying
then
is
we
the
are
problem
having-
I have.
we're having a totally different discussion is the thing. You started out by talking about, if I remember correctly, organ donation. And the whole conversation
Right.
at the beginning was about bodily autonomy. It's not that conversation anymore.
Right.
We are not talking about bodily autonomy. We're
Yeah, because you changed it.
not talking about organs. We're not talking about anything. We're just talking about if you even think about wronging me, your life is over. And that's weird. Like,
No,
do you understand how weird that is?
Nobody said that.
It depends on how. It depends how high risk it is. So I said at first, high risk of severe harm. Right now, we've been talking about severe
Which
harm.
is also an
That's the high
arbitrary
risk.
line.
Yeah.
What does high risk mean?
Yeah, but
When
Yeah, but you would just have to compare it to what we really have in real life that you think with humans that are born, adults, whatever, however you want to look at it, that's how it would be. You have this arbitrary line probably of risk if somebody's coming at you without a weapon or something, and let's say there's like a 7-foot muscular man and a very petite 5-foot lady is coming at him and she has no weapons at all, and maybe she's going to slap him or something. Like if he killed her, that would just be murder. He would be in trouble for that. He couldn't just say that there's some kind of risk at all. And anything that gets closer to a high risk, like if somebody's coming at somebody with a skateboard to swing over their head, it gets closer to a risk that's reasonable. And obviously there will be some kind of middle ground, which sucks for people that are trying to defend themselves and not sure where that cutoff is. But we already had that cutoff. So now we're just adding it into, we're baking in the idea of unborn into the category. Like,
you decide if it's high risk.
For me, as
Is the
long as-
gallbladder high risk? Is the
Well-
leg high risk? What's, also, it should be pointed out
I
that
would
like
say
every pregnancy is
It's high
risky.
risk. Yeah.
You're going to have issues all
No,
the
that's
time.
not true.
Your
That's
pelvis
not
has to
true.
split. You're going to have internal scarring.
is
You're
true.
going to damage your pelvic floor muscles. I don't know a pregnant woman that doesn't have some part of her body that's completely numb. Like there's
The risk of
issues there.
postpartum depression is also a huge one.
Absolutely. We're talking about mental anguish as well. Is that as bad as losing a leg? Because I think so. Like, where do we draw the line? You're making a completely arbitrary distinction where you're saying, okay, now it's okay to kill a person, but at all other times you can't. And that's kind of weird.
Can I take a quick second to respond?
Sure, by all means.
So the phrase high risk of severe harm for me is not defined. I just think whatever that arbitrary line is, it needs to be held consistent for all life. So whether that life is all human life. So whether that, all human organism life. Whether that human organism is 5-year-old, 50 years old, or 5-month-old fetus, or a 5-day-old embryo, I think that level needs to be held consistent. I don't know where that line should be, but as long as it's consistent. So if you wouldn't kill a 5-year-old for removing your gallbladder, then you should be able to kill a fetus for the same thing.
But then who makes that distinction? Like when you say hold it consistent,
Court.
who's in charge of
the government. What do you mean? Who's in charge? What are you talking about?
courts are in charge of deciding when you can and can't. So lawmakers are. Oh, go ahead, Forrest, because I'm trying to wrap
I
my
was just
head
going to
around.
ask, you're fine. Do you think that as it stands today, the way that we frame it, that abortion is akin to murder? Because it sounds like that's the case based on what you're saying.
It depends on what you mean by murder. If you mean like unlawful killing, in Texas, technically it is unlawful killing of a human organism.
You're
murder,
using legalistic
say
terms
it's
now. We were
more-
asking you what you
Yeah,
think.
I just mean your
Yeah,
opinion.
I would
Like, do you not?
She says you're using legalistic terms. We're asking you, but they're using a word that oftentimes is equated with legal. So using murder. Yeah. Anyways, that's fine.
Technically, like in your eyes, do you see abortion as murder?
I see it more as hiring a hitman. I see the abortion position as
what should be the legal punishment then for abortion? Because there's punishment for hiring a
I
hitman.
think it was like I think it was like 2 weeks ago. Matt Dillahunty had a phone call about this, and he hung up on the guy after he said his opinion. So I'm probably going to get hung up on. But I think if you hire a hitman to kill any human organism, you should go to jail.
So anybody who has an abortion should go to jail.
After it becomes illegal, yes.
Okay, I have
For how
further.
long?
It's at high risk of severe harm.
For how long? Well, again, I can't hire a hitman because I think someone's going to hurt me. So that
Right.
doesn't really track.
No, but you can hire a bodyguard. You can hire a bodyguard.
Yes.
Doctors in this situation
Right, then
don't count as bodyguards. You've said hitman the whole time. It's not a bodyguard performing the abortion.
If it's illegal. Well, I mean, if a bodyguard kills
Oh my God. I hate that they can't follow him. I hate that they can't understand it. He's saying I can't hide. Like he said, the only time it wouldn't be bad to have a doctor do it is if the fetus is like going to cause severe harm or death or whatever. And then he said, well, I can't hire a hitman to do that. But yeah, that's not true. You can hire a bodyguard. You can have somebody that's there with you that if you're being attacked and going to be killed, they can kill them. You can always, like, if I go into a store and somebody pulls out a gun on the store owner and I had a gun on me, I could shoot the guy that's doing that. So you could, yeah. Oh my gosh. So irritating.
somebody, it's either legal or not. If it was
Go
higher,
ahead, no, like nuance is falling apart for me, and I have some further issues. One sec. One sec.
Sorry.
You haven't been hung up on. I'm listening, but now I have further questions because now we're entering into the legalistic realm. So how do you know if somebody has a justified abortion because there's a risk of harm? How do you know if somebody has an abortion versus a miscarriage?
The only one that would know a risk of harm would be a doctor. A doctor can look at a situation. They can go, oh, there's blood here. The baby's here. There's no fluid here. There's this or that or whatever. And based on history or whatever, like, I don't know all the exact details, but they could say, like, based on everything that's ever happened in the past with this situation you have now, if we don't remove this fetus, then this woman is going to die if we don't remove it within 24 hours. And then therefore that's just how you decide it. And another thing that I find very irritating about what they're doing here, it doesn't matter which side you're on. You could be pro-choice or pro-life, which is probably those two combined make up about maybe 10% or less of people. I would say more than 90% of people are pro-viability, and then there's a few people in different other stances. But it doesn't matter which side you're on. Don't let yourself get angry just because good points are being made. I don't know if that's what these people are doing here, but every time he makes the best arguments that he's made, these people will act as if they're very upset because this bad thing is happening to them. And it might just be a natural human thing, but we should work against that. And no matter what side, I'm not just saying it because I side with the other guy more than I side with them. But yeah.
Because now we're entering into, like, do people who are pregnant have any sort of right to medical privacy now, right? Mm-hmm. Because if we're entering to the...
If you are killing a living human being, then no, you do not have the right to privacy. If you have medical privacy, like if your blood's being drawn and it's showing your levels of vitamin D or whatever, no humans being killed. So yes, you have the privacy there. If you have all this privacy for medical stuff, and then you decide one day, okay, I want to have this human killed, then the stuff that could have been private has to be the reason for doing the killing. And so then unless there's no value. So like, I don't value a fertilized egg. So if all of society agreed with me and the laws involve that, then yeah, that would still be, that medical privacy would still be there. If we have a cutoff, whether it's viability or it's sentience or whatever, and then there's a certain week cutoff. So let's say there's a 20-week cutoff. Then if you are 22 weeks pregnant or 25 weeks pregnant and you want to kill that human that's inside of you, then yeah, your privacy, you don't lose your privacy. You just need to show valid reason for killing. If I hire somebody to kill my neighbor and they do it, then I'm in trouble. If I show like valid reason for it, like I hired somebody to stand with me and then my neighbor tried to kill me and then that person I hired kills them, then like you know what I mean? Like so I could have the privacy between me and my hitman or my bodyguard or whatever. But as soon as I'm having that person kill somebody, then I need to give answers. And I could show the security footage from my house showing that the neighbor was coming to kill me. And then that person that I had there that I hired to be my bodyguard killed that person to defend me. So, yeah, this privacy thing is kind of silly.
Legalistic realm, and you're saying, well, then these people should be going to jail because it's akin to hiring a hitman when you end a pregnancy. Then now you are saying that nobody who is capable of being pregnant has a right to any sort of medical privacy, because every time somebody has a miscarriage, we now have to ascertain what caused that miscarriage, whether or not they were attempting to self-induce it, whether or not they made a choice.
No, fair. This one's kind of complicated if there's a miscarriage, because we are talking about a living human at some point, and then many living humans die in this way because of miscarriages. And so, yeah, it becomes complicated, but I think we should recognize that even though we should have privacy, when there are severe situations happening, we might have to look into it. So in the same sense that if, like, let's say I was out of town for a week or something, and they find like a dead toddler in my yard. I come back. I mean, I wasn't here. I view there being no reason for them to look into me or my house or anything like that. But there's a dead toddler, so they have to look into things. Then yeah, we kind of all lose some of our privacy of just wanting to be completely left alone because there has to be an investigation because different things. So it becomes more complicated when it's unborn, but also that's might just be the norms we're used to. So yeah.
That could have potentially, even if it was an arbitrarily choice that they didn't intend to make, that resulted in the end of that pregnancy. You now need to look at their medical records to see if they did have an abortion, to find out if they were even pregnant to begin with. So do we not have the right to medical privacy?
Jeremy, real quick, so Jeremy says the most important fact for me is that criminal law isn't a magic wand that makes behavior cease to exist. I think it does to some extent. I don't know to what extent, but it has to somewhat of a large extent. Marijuana is legal in Oregon, the state I'm in, and there are pot stores everywhere. I mean, we're talking, there has to be at very least 1,000, but probably like 10,000 in the state I'm in. And before it was legal, a lot of people smoked pot. A lot of people. But there's no way that it being legalized hasn't increased that by like probably double, because there's so many people that when something's illegal, they stay as far away from it as possible. And so, yeah, sure. It's illegal to kill people, and people still kill people because those people, the ones that are doing it while it's illegal and while it's known that most people that kill people would be caught, there's no stopping them. There's no deterrence that's going to do anything. They are just going to do it. But if it stopped being illegal today, it would double or triple or something, because there's so many people that might think like, oh, I wish I could kill somebody, but I don't want to go to jail for life, so I'm not going to do it. So I think that is very important to keep in mind, that laws do deter people from doing stuff, and anything that we think should be illegal or that we think is wrong, there's going to be some portion of people that want to do it, and then some portion of those people won't do it if it's illegal. And the Lewis says too many people wrongfully identify themselves as pro-choice. Yeah, I think I don't know the best answer to this, because it's kind of easy to have simple things like pro-choice, pro-life. But really, pro-life should basically just be for people that say fertilized egg onward should be protected. Pro-choice should be somebody that says even if it's not necessary, you can kill a fetus a day before it's born. And then everything else is just it's milestone. So you have pro brain activity, pro sentience, pro consciousness, pro heartbeat, pro viability. And I think most people fall under pro viability. But everybody that's pro viability and pro choice say pro choice. So it seems like there's a lot more pro choice people than there are.
And I do see that this is now going more to the legal aspect of it.
Yes, you did that.
That's a big part of what you're saying, though.
You did that. You brought us there by talking about how the courts and lawmakers make the rules of the land.
No. He only ever brought that up because the questions you guys asked him. So he came on to make his claim about the reverse violinist thing, basically, and then you guys are challenging his thoughts. You guys have a question for him. He answers it. Question for him. So I think it's definitely fair to say that you guys brought that up. Not that it matters. You guys should just talk about whatever.
And what should happen.
I'm not the best person to discuss legal, but I will respond to your question. So HIPAA applies to anybody who, for a personal medical decision, abortion automatically involves two humans. So it's not just one person. So
does a miscarriage. By your justification, so
yeah,
does a miscarriage. How do you ascertain whether or not I've had a miscarriage or an abortion? And I've never had an abortion. I have had a miscarriage. When I had that miscarriage, should I have had to prove? Thank you. It was a wanted pregnancy, actually.
Yeah, it would just come down to if it's provable or not. If eating carrots made people in general miscarry, then maybe it should be illegal for pregnant people to eat carrots or something like that. And then if you don't make it illegal to do that, then it just would be what it would be. If you do make it illegal and then you can prove that somebody ate a carrot or whatever, then there's that. So yeah, anyways, if there's a miscarriage, then it would just come down to if they're like, so there's a pill for it, a pill that would stop a fertilized egg, I believe stops a fertilized egg from implanting into the uterine lining. And so again, that's not a thing I want to prevent, but some people might. And so it's not like my stance is going to win out. So if the fertilized egg stance wins out, then if somebody was caught like that they had purchased and taken a pill, you can test the blood levels of how much alcohol is in somebody's system. Let's say you could test it to see if this pill's in their system. Then we can see that somebody took this pill and they had a miscarriage, which is what the pill is supposed to do. Then, and let's say that they invent those, and maybe they currently have them, but if they have them for when you're like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks pregnant or whatever, then it would just come down to if you can prove that it's there. I mean, it's like, if you look through somebody's history and you see they purchased a gun and then there's this killing here and that person was killed with that gun and then they're trying to track down the gun and fingerprints and whatever, it'd be like, if you track down this person purchased this medicine that's supposed to kill the living human in them, and then like, okay, how far along were they? This is documented here that they were this far along and whatever. So you just track it down however you track it down. I don't even see the concern here.
When I had that miscarriage, should I have had to, at that point, had to prove to the legal system that it was in fact a miscarriage and that I had done everything in my power to retain that pregnancy? Because if you're entering into that realm, then it's not simply ending a pregnancy via abortion that becomes an issue. It's making any decision that could be perceived as any type of threat to the viability of that pregnancy. And there are so many things that you may not even know about your body. Like I have multiple sclerosis, for example. There's things that I learned when I was pregnant about how I needed to act and behave to make sure that I protect both my body and the baby. And I needed to act differently. If I hadn't had that education, I would have had another miscarriage. The reason I had the first one was because I didn't have that education, and I was exposed to some chemicals that caused me to have an asthma attack, and that asthma attack caused me to have a miscarriage. I didn't realize that was going to happen. If I did, then I would have avoided those chemicals. So I was negligent in that case based on your paradigm, which means that I should go to jail because at best that would be manslaughter.
Well, no, it'd come down to what we know. if we don't widely know a thing, then we don't widely know a thing. It's like it's not anything that's accepted that it would be unreasonable to not know a thing. That like if somebody goes and stabs somebody, and then somebody says, "Why did you stab them? They're dead." And you go, "I didn't know that this knife would go inside of them. I just wanted to tickle them. I don't know what a knife does." Like, we all know that a knife can stab into things, and so we wouldn't accept a silly argument like that. If somebody has a miscarriage and then it's found that the miscarriage happened because they were near some chemicals, because they were just doing normal life things, nobody would say, "How could you not know that blah 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 number 82 was going to make you miscarry?" And so if there are things like that, then it should become more well known, and then we learn as we go. Yeah, it's like, and there's some things that maybe we don't need to know. Like, somebody could think like, if they keep using meth while they're pregnant, that it's not going to hurt the baby or something. But it not being a widely talked about thing wouldn't excuse something like that. We would just decide based off whatever we decide. I mean, it's all going to be decided no matter what. Like, they're acting so strange here, because we already have the laws we have for people that are born, and now we're just talking about how would that be adjusted for unborn, and then it would just be what it would be. Even if it wasn't perfect, it would just be whatever it's decided to be. So thoroughly confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you probably weren't negligent, it doesn't sound like there was anything you tried to do to kill your kid. I think it's
That's
just
not, but negligence means that you aren't
circumstances
trying. I was negligent there. Should I be in jail right now? Should I be in jail right now because I didn't actively educate myself in what my body required in order to retain the pregnancy, and as a result made a decision that ended in me having a miscarriage? Just a real life example. This really happened. Should I be in jail right now?
My quick answer is no. I have
Why?
a kid as well. I don't know everything that could kill her. There may be something that I could have researched that would end up killing her, but I didn't research. That's not negligence. That's just a part of life and being a parent.
If you leave a gallon of bleach out and your infant child drinks it and dies, even if you didn't know that bleach was poisonous, that's still negligence. And that
Yeah, but the same thing could go for so many different things. And so bleach, we would, for whatever various reason, just because of the popularity of it, we would view that as negligent, and you would get in trouble. But if it's something that is not a popular thing, not a well-known thing that nobody would think of, then that wouldn't be the case. So it would just be, yeah.
that is still, you are going to be convicted of a crime for that. So why is it any different for Shannon?
Right, but because I don't think it's anything, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I don't think it's anything like that. If your kid dies because they ate a fruit that was from a bad part of the planet that, I don't know, is having diseases or something, and then they get a disease, that's negligence. If you would have stayed up on the news, your kid would be alive. You can't go to jail for that. Not every case of
somebody would still be responsible for that, though. Like, then the company that sold the fruit would be responsible. Somebody would still go to jail. So that's what we're asking.
Really?
But the point is the negligence. The point is that not every case of negligence is going to be the same. It's going to depend on what is deemed reasonable for us to know.
Why do you have a different set of legal analysis, a different framework for abortion than you do for living humans if they're the same thing?
Right.
He doesn't.
Well, I didn't know somebody would go to jail for that. I don't think they should.
You don't think that if I sell dangerous products and someone else dies because of it, I should be punished for that?
If you did everything you can to make sure it's not dangerous, no.
That's the whole point of liability, is I did something wrong. It doesn't matter if I meant to. There was a harm done. Somebody got hurt. Somebody needs to be held responsible.
No.
Right.
No, I feel like maybe this is just a difference of our legal opinions, but I feel like if you did everything you could to make sure that fruit was healthy for society. It turns out
Yeah,
it
but we're
wasn't.
talking about fruit right now.
I don't feel like that.
It's real weird.
Like,
No,
sorry.
it's not weird. You guys brought it to it. You're bringing it up. He's having a good response to it, and you guys are calling it weird.
Here's the problem, I think, with a lot of these abortion conversations. Go ahead. We're going to have to let you go soon, but I really want to get this in because I think that this is an overreaching problem with a lot of these abortion conversations that people have, is that people want to see it very black and white. They want to see it as either having an abortion is murdering another human or having an abortion isn't murdering another human. But there are real life implications when we start going down this road to female bodied people and to people who have uteruses who can get pregnant, because you are encroaching upon our medical privacy. You are putting us into this like incredibly legalistic debate where we're now having a debate about fruit for some reason when we should be like, there is so much more nuance and so much more impact in attempting to control what women can do with their bodies than is simply this black and white look, like having an abortion is murder, not having an abortion is murder, and then avoiding all of the nuance. Once you get into the nuance like we're doing now, it starts to get a little bit ridiculous. Once you follow the paths and you realize where they actually lead, it starts to get a little bit ridiculous. It means that I don't have medical privacy. It means that anytime if I have a miscarriage, that means that I have to now prove I had a miscarriage. The only other alternative would be that that everybody who's ever had an abortion can just say.
Yeah, I don't know too much about miscarriages, but if your average miscarriage is a miscarriage and not an abortion, then yeah, I wouldn't think that miscarriages would need to be looked into at all, unless there seems to be some concern. If somebody says like this miscarriage doesn't make sense, I think it would just come down to the doctors. If there's a miscarriage, then the experts would say there seems to be an issue here, and then you look into it. I wouldn't think that would be a huge thing to be looked into. And then that is the same as the medical privacy. That's the same issue there. And so so far that's our only concern, is one concern.
That they had a miscarriage, right? Right? We could just say, I had a miscarriage. Who's going to prove us wrong? Who's going to prove us wrong? The answer to that question is that we don't have medical privacy. We don't get to make decisions for ourselves. And it also gives the fetus a separate set of rights. You're saying that there are circumstances in which it is justifiable to have an abortion. But then who gets to determine those circumstances? Who gets to say it is justifiable in column A and it is not justifiable in column B?
Whoever decides the same thing for living people. If somebody comes onto somebody's property and somebody shoots them and says they thought they were going to break into their house and kill them, then they might be in trouble for killing them because the person hadn't attempted to do anything yet. It could have just been somebody coming to knock on the door to sell them something. But if somebody comes and they're trying to break the door down, or if they break a window, then the question is, okay, if somebody breaks a window of somebody's property, clearly going inside and you're inside. And so anything that's happening where there's going to be a tricky area of deciding, is this self-defense, is this murder, whatever, it's just applying similar type of things to unborn if we think they have value. Blah.
Who gets to assess whether or not you're in column A and column B? It's so.
Jeremy, good point. Who proves that someone malnourishes their 1-year-old? Yeah. And so we would just break it down however we figure out to break it down, but we don't just say this will be complicated, so we just don't worry about it. You would say, oh, this child has starved to death, and the only excuse for it would be if the child refuses to eat and was offered food. If that were the case, then somebody should take that child to a doctor. And if somebody didn't take the child to the doctor and the child starves to death, then that's because they weren't fed. If you are trying to feed your child, giving them all the food in the world, and they won't eat, they're 6 months old, they won't take down formula, they won't take down breast milk, whatever, they won't take down anything, and they're starving to death, they haven't eaten in a few days, then yeah, it'd be your responsibility to go to the doctor and say, we can't get this baby to eat. And then if the baby dies, then you'd go like, oh, these people tried. We can see what's going on here, and there's something wrong with the baby where it won't eat. But if they don't try and it doesn't eat, then that's the negligence. And so there would be and there would be more to it probably, but it would be the same thing for all these different cases. There might be an argument for why certain types of abortions are right, or all abortions are right, or whatever. But the argument wouldn't be, if we give this thing value, then we'll have to change a bunch of laws. Like, what a horrible argument.
So utterly ridiculous, and it's so frustrating. And I've been listening for a very long time to constantly have to debate whether or not I have the right to make my own goddamn decisions.
What are you talking about? Like, I could make the decision to go kill my neighbor. Like, and we're going to debate if I should have the right to do that. The debate is on if something is right or wrong. It's not about making decisions. It's about making decisions that are right or wrong. Everything that is illegal or immoral is a decision. It's a decision happening. Anything you could think of, if you steal somebody's property, if you burn down somebody's house, if you stab somebody, if you kill somebody, if you enslave somebody, all of these are decisions. So the idea that you're making a decision, blah.
About what happens to my body and what I use it for. And every time I have this conversation, so help me God, it's with the man. And it's just like, it makes me
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, there's average differences between males and females. And yeah, it seems when it comes to like political stuff, legal stuff, moral stuff, like philosophical stuff, on average, it seems to be that males have more interest in it. I don't know exactly what that is. And that might be a societal thing. I don't know. But to get mad at that is kind of silly. Anybody that's interested in a topic like that might want to talk about the topic. You guys have a show. People call in, you accept the callers. If you wanted to only talk to women, then you'd say, oh, we're not taking this call, we're waiting for a woman. But it really shouldn't matter. The argument should be what matters. And you guys don't see this person, so if they just had a female's voice, you'd be taking in the argument. And yeah.
vibrate. It makes me literally vibrate that I have to sit here quietly listening to whether or not I should have the rights that I have to do what I want with myself.
Yeah, again, with yourself, like, I can take a knife right now and just stab it into the air. It's myself. It's my hand. I'm stabbing it in the air. But as soon as somebody steps into the area where I was going to stab next, if I continue to stab, then I wouldn't have that right anymore. It would be illegal. I would go to jail. And so I can't decide what to do with myself anymore, which is move my hand forward. So yeah, there's plenty things that we cannot decide what to do with ourselves.
Like, I just wish that any man ever would have to fucking go through something like that on a day-to-day basis. Because
it's kind of interesting. A lot of people will say the thing like, mention it, be talking about it, mention it, be able to say anything. I think anybody with an argument should be able to share that good argument. But if we were going to decide if somebody shouldn't have a say in it, it would probably be the people that are emotionally involved. So we would say that, like, if we were going to make only one sex decide this, it would be the ones that aren't the ones getting pregnant. Now she probably makes a good point that maybe to make people think about it slightly different, something that you might think should be illegal, you could go, oh, well, since it's going to happen to me, I want it to be legal. I want to be able to do this thing that I think is bad or whatever. And maybe plenty of women will justify this action that they normally would think is bad because it could happen to them. That makes sense, and I don't mean to make light of that. But yeah, if anybody were going to be the people that wouldn't make a decision, it would be the people that were emotionally affected by it. Like a parent of a child that was like sexually assaulted by a pedophile. That parent shouldn't be deciding the laws of what happens to pedophiles. So the people that would be least best to make decisions would be the ones that are emotionally impacted by it. But also, we should just all be sharing our opinions and yeah.
A lot less of these conversations would happen. Go ahead. Tell me why you get to decide what I do with my body. I'm listening.
I'm just going to say three things. I think one, where we're probably reaching the end of the call. I appreciate it. You guys have been really nice until this last little bit, which is still pretty good. Just a little thing I want to take on in a second. Second, I didn't call to convince you guys to be pro-life. I'm trying to unconvince myself of being pro-life. One of my arguments is abortion is not analogous to organ donation. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but so far I still feel like I'm in the same camp. And the third thing is it's very sexist to say because I'm a man, I can't have an opinion.
I didn't say that. I did it. Nope, you're going to stop right now because I never fucking said that. I did not say because you're a man, you can't have a decision. I did not. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with you for the past 20 minutes about it where I was very calm. So I'm not going to let you tell me that I said something I did not. All I said was every time I have this conversation, it's with a man.
Yeah, that's essentially the same thing. I mean, it's not like words matter, details matter, and you're not saying that they can't, but your irritation based on gender is what he's commenting on. And so instead of him saying you shouldn't say I can't talk about it because I'm a man, he should have said you shouldn't be judging me at all because I'm a man. It's still the same points getting across.
That's what I said. And that's worth pointing out because A, it's true, and B, it's telling. If I didn't think you were allowed to have an opinion, I wouldn't have sat here and had a conversation with you and listened to what you had to say.
It's very sexist to say that my sex matters in a negative way. And then it's also homophobic to say that
We're going to let you go. Goodbye. Have a nice day. Apparently, we've hit my limit. I had some of those emotions I was talking about earlier.
Go off,
Yep,
Queen.
that's true.
It's just like
You've never had to experience this, and therefore you have a weird set of rules for it. Well, that's sexist for you to say that I haven't experienced it. Therefore, like, come on, dude.
No, the guy's completely right. I mean, imagine a woman fighting really hard to stop circumcision for baby boys. Like, her not having a penis has nothing to do with the stance that that she thinks you shouldn't remove somebody's body part or that you should remove it or whatever. And so to say every time I talk about circumcision, it happens to be with a female, like, no, that's I mean, recognizing that different people act different ways. Sure. It's an interesting thing. Like I just did it about the idea of males and females caring about legality or philosophy. And so that's an interesting thing, but it's not like something to bring up in the middle of an argument. It's just something to bring up when we talk about the psychology of humans.
Dude,
I wish, no, I don't wish this on anybody actually, but the people that have to quietly sit through conversations about whether or not they should or shouldn't have rights,
yep,
being pushed back against because they say, this is frustrating for me because you're forcing me into having a dialogue with you. And you're telling me that if I don't have it in a certain kind of way, if I don't have the appropriate tone and listen to you and reflect what you're saying in the exact manner that you deem acceptable,
yep,
that
well, no. I mean, like, sure, obviously people can decide who they're willing to talk to. So like you sound really angry right now. So somebody can decide they don't want to have a discussion or debate or whatever on a topic with you while you sound like that. And that's up to them, and you can decide the same thing. People can decide who they talk to. But no, the main problem would be not taking in arguments, not hearing ideas, and letting your emotions destroy the argument or destroy the conversation.
that's unreasonable of me. Well, you're talking about whether or not I should or should not have fucking rights.
Yeah, that's because the rights you're talking about, you think you should have, and the other person thinks you shouldn't. Just imagine imagine Ted Bundy saying the same thing as you. Like, I only killed all these people and ate them. And I hate arguing with people that think I shouldn't have rights to do it. That's what when it comes down to arguing about if something should be legal or not. That's what the abortion debate is. Deciding if it's right or wrong, if the rights should be there. don't have it at all if you're worried about people thinking you shouldn't have rights. Because, yeah, that's what it is. Like, for example, I think you should have the right to abort a fertilized egg, where many people don't. I don't think you should have the right to abort a fetus probably around 12 weeks or 13 weeks or something like that. And then other people think you should have that right, but that you shouldn't have the right to abort one at 24 weeks. You know? And so different people have their different stances, but blah. Okay.
And isn't it weird that like I never have to argue? I've yet to have a discussion about what medical procedures I should have access to, what bathrooms I should have to use, what all the
Yeah, any of those. If you're using a bathroom where you kill somebody, maybe it should be discussed. If you're using medicine on yourself that somehow kills somebody, which doesn't make sense, then yeah, maybe that should be discussed. Now, it doesn't mean that abortion is wrong. It just means that since there is a human being killed, some people think that's worth discussing.
ridiculous freaking arguments that we're having to have. I don't have to do any of it. And so no matter what I bring to the table, it's valid. But anytime somebody who's in an oppressed group is like, hey, yo, this is really freaking aggravating for very obvious reasons. Now all of a sudden tone matters. Fuck off,
Right?
dude.
Oh, you're being unreasonable. Yeah.
He's saying tone matters because he wants to have a conversation with somebody that's not being super angry and letting their emotions get in the way of the conversations. Like a conversation would be best if the words just came across as calmly as possible. I don't even know how to be as calm as that dude was, but yeah, the idea of people being oppressed or whatever. I mean, you guys are talking from the stance of your opinion. If you don't want to talk to people from the stance that is different from your opinion, then that just means you don't want to talk about the topic at all. Right? Right?
Yeah, yes,
Oh, my
yes,
gosh.
and sexist. It's sexist, and it always goes. Well, you saying a man shouldn't have an opinion? Never said that. Never said
Nope.
that. Talk to you
But
calmly.
that's
Very
what's
long
next on
time.
the script, of course.
Until we got to the point that for some reason we were talking about whether or not you can sell spoiled fruit to people, and then I called an audible because
Dude.
this is
Well, yeah, that's because Forrest brought up that idea. He brought up the idea of negligence. I think maybe both of you guys did. And yeah, the spoiled fruit was perfect.
insane.
I was getting to the end of my rope at that point as well. It's so
But
weird.
why? It's because you were challenging him and he had a good argument. I don't. Maybe you didn't understand the argument.
It's the same thing as like to draw a comparison. It's the same thing as like when we were having protests about Black Lives Matter. Well, why aren't you talking? Why are you setting yourselves apart? Why aren't you talking about white people? Why aren't you talking? Because that's not what
Well,
we're.
no, because this conversation's about abortion, and then Black Lives Matter would be about black people, and that's why you don't talk about white people. Talking about the fruit here is an analogy to the idea of neglect with the topic we're talking about, which is abortion. There's no way these guys don't understand this. I mean, maybe in the moment, there's a lot of things people don't catch in the moment. But if they watch this back, it's funny. This video is actually posted 3 months ago as a Throwback Thursday or something. And the actual video is from like 2 years ago. So they actually must still like it, or they somehow haven't been made aware of how bad their arguments were for this entire thing.
Talking about right now. So like we talk about, hey, women's rights are human rights, and like we should make sure that they're treated the same. Well, why aren't you talking about men? Why aren't men allowed to be in the? Because you're
No. He isn't bringing. I mean, you might just be bringing up an example of what somebody could say, but he's saying don't bring the gender into it. She's the one that brought the gender.
every fucking conversation. So like we're just having a different one for a minute.
right. You just need to elect a president if this isn't fucking about you, and listen to him.
Yep. God. Yes, just that's what we need. We need more straight white men to say exactly what you just said, because then someone might listen and it'll be easy.
Wow. Okay. If anybody knows any way I could have a debate with those guys, I would love that. Okay. Anyways, I gotta run. Gotta get more coffee. Gotta pee. Thanks for watching, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Put your thoughts on abortion arguments and whatnot in the comments. If anybody wants to come on and have a chat about it, or if they know anybody, my email is in on my main page, and I would love to I love to have conversations on this topic, conversations or debates or whatever. So anybody from any angle of it, I like to challenge all the different sides of it. So yeah, anyways, take care, guys. We'll see you in the next one.